Welcome to LOA Today. Walt and new co-host Louis Souza here on this Monday, September the 17th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day and for the week for that matter. And Louis is kind of an unusual case. He called in as a listener, became a co-host. I think that's something of a record here on the show. But Louis, hello, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Hi, Walt. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I mean, that's like our standard answer, by the way, on a Monday. We always want to make sure we're doing fine because our job here is to uplift our listeners. So even if I wasn't going fine, I would tell you I'm doing fine. But no, seriously, I really am doing fine. In fact, it's been a good weekend, a really good weekend, and I'm feeling good. I mean, that's the goal for me with the weekend is always to get Monday off to a really, really good start, and I've done it this week as we usually do. So yeah, I'm doing fine. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I'm sitting in the Austrian Alps with beautiful fresh air, lovely water, lovely walks, incredible weather.
Oh,
Cows
how rough
walking
is
the
that? Let
street
me
as they
tell
come
you.
down from the mountains. Sorry?
How rough is that? That's just so
Yeah,
terrible.
terrible. My wife fortunately comes from a skiing village in Austria.
Aha, yeah, okay. Well, that's all right. That works. But the Alps, I mean, oh my goodness, what a nice way to spend your day. Oh, almost makes you wonder why you'd
It's
want to go back to
incredible.
London.
Yeah, flying this evening. Yeah,
Oh
I'll be
boy.
back.
So, you guys have had a great weekend. Have you been there for a weekend or is it a week or how long have you been there?
We've been there for about 5 days. Yeah,
About 5 days. Great.
yeah, we fly back from Missouri.
Excellent. Excellent. So Louis de Souza, we got to find out who he is because we don't really know. I mean, he came onto the show with Joel and I last Thursday, and he impressed. I don't know if I told you, Louis, but Joel said that guy would be a good co-host. So,
Oh, did he?
yeah, oh yeah,
Nice. Good.
you got a good endorsement there. But
Thank you.
our our listeners still need to know who you are. So, who are you? Who is Louis de Souza?
Who am I? Who am I? You want the short version or the long version?
Well, we have an hour. You take your time.
An hour about me. Now, my favorite subject. I have no ego, of course.
Of course. No, seriously, who are you?
No, but
What's your what should we know about you? What makes Louis de Souza tick?
So, um, go back to childhood where I was brought up in a small town in South Africa.
Hmm.
And it's an old gold mining town and forestry town and farming town. And my dad was head of the foresting part of that scenario. And we lived on the side of a mountain overlooking the town on a 75-acre plot where, I went hiking and camping many a weekend, but I'm the last of five kids. So it was a big, busy family where we had a lot of people going in and out the house from all around the world.
Hmm.
Because my mother was British and my father was South African/Portuguese ancestry. So we just had people from all over the world. And I remember a significant thing that led me to, study more about LOA, etc., was at the age of 8. I consciously remember very seriously going to my mother and saying, "Mom, what is truth, love, and God really about?" And she looked at me sideways, and I realized I wasn't really going to get an answer from that, and I'd have to find my own answer. So
Ah,
the journey began consciously
yeah.
from a very young age, and it made me into an incredibly intense child.
An intense child.
Intense. I was always trying to understand the underlying meaning of life.
Aha,
Always.
okay. So you were basically writing your philosophical thesis by age 10.
I was confused by the age 10. Let's say that was the confused stage.
Well, I think that's probably true for most of us, actually, because of all the signals we get. We get signals that don't match up with what we're born with, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on here? I don't understand any of this.
So a significant other story happened to me along the way is, I kind of call myself I was brought up in a religious sea and a spiritual desert.
Okay.
So, I was always trying to find the real meaning to life, but I was given bits and pieces that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of those hiking trips I was talking about, where there was this lady from Johannesburg, and she had come down and she had walked the whole day with us, and she sat around the fire, and we started talking, and we just hit it off. And she was like, 30s, 40s, and it was exciting because she started talking about all the things I really wanted to know about.
Uh-huh.
And she started going into health and nutrition and my relationship with my parents and all the rest of it. And I was getting more and more excited and stimulated and passionate about the conversation, and nervous, like the whole solar plexus was all wound up. And I said to her near the end, "Why don't people speak like this all the time?" And she looked at me and she said, "Because they're scared."
Good
Which
answer.
to me at the time was a light bulb moment. It
Yeah.
was, wow, this is why people don't talk like this. So that was really exciting for me to actually bump into somebody I could talk to.
Yeah.
And then I went off to boarding school, where I started chewing the library up of all books, because I started to think that psychology was the way to go, and I didn't really like that. And I thought philosophy was the way to go, and I didn't really like that too much. And then I branched off into things like all the different religions and looked at them, and metaphysics, the occult. I went into everything. So as a young kid, I was looking at everything, and then I went into hypnosis and had a bad experience with it. So
Oh dear.
Self-hypnosis, shall I say, and left that alone and moved on. So after school, I went to the army, which was a fantastic period of my life. I learned to gun drive and command a tank, my sins.
Wow.
And very useful skill. I use it every day.
Well, isn't that the way most traffic is?
Yeah, I wish I had that tank again.
That's quite a varied background.
And then, I started studying after that. Glad to have the 2 years army to think about what I wanted to do, because I really wasn't clear. It wasn't that clear. So I was talking to you a little bit earlier. I got quite excited about electronics from a young age. I was taking an old valve radio and pulling it apart and putting it back together and fixing it, and buying,
nice.
replacing blown bulb valves for it, etc. So I really liked electronics from so many different points of view. So I chose electronic engineering. So I went and studied that, and while I was studying that, I was working, and the job, the guy sucked me in, and I eventually went permanent, which I didn't really want to do instead of my contracting. And then I got into the 9 to 5 routine, which I hated, absolutely hated. So I wanted some expansion. Found out I could choose to get either an English passport and Irish passport. My mother was British and her father was Irish, which entitled me to get either of them. So I said, "Who hates the English?" I said, "Everybody." I said, "Who hates the Irish?" I knew the Irish, so I chose an Irish passport.
That seems safe. All things are relative.
Yeah, so then I came over to London, and I had a credit card that I got £1,000 into debt with.
Congratulations! Welcome to the modern world.
I lived on the floor with a couple of South Africans in a shared house in the lounge, where they came to smoke, and I didn't smoke. And the freezing cold weather that was in the UK, and I got myself set up with an accountant and some clothes and a suit, and put my CV out, and I got my first job to British standards in Milton Keynes in the UK, and
wow.
Started at £19 an hour, which is a fairly good rate even going today for some people. And from there, I just went from strength to strength. I worked for the Met Police, Chase Manhattan Bank,
wow,
BBC, and all in IT, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely had a passion for it and was good at it, and enjoyed it thoroughly.
Well, good for you for finding a passion so early, by the way. I mean, because a lot of people don't find a passion that early. You did. That's great.
Well, I kicked up that whole passion. I decided I wanted to change in midlife. I
Mm-hmm.
had this midlife deciding to change. It wasn't a crisis; it was just a decision.
Uh-huh.
And sort of working from home now. I run 3 businesses from home: health and nutrition, accommodation, and properties.
Health and
And
nutrition, accommodation, and property. That's quite a combination right there.
it is quite a combination. The properties mostly look after themselves a lot, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
The accommodation part keeps me quite busy with the health and nutrition, where I run exercise classes, etc. as well,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
and sell nutrition. So one of the greatest things I did was read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
So my brother gave me that book, and it really changed my life. It's what actually got me to kick myself out of my contracting role
Because of
in
that
IT,
book.
because of that book.
So Mr. Kiyosaki, if you're listening, it's all your fault.
It's all his fault. It's why my mom kept on saying to me, "When are you going to get a real job?"
Yeah, right. That's fantastic.
So my spiritual studies went on in the sideline with different tangents, following a spiritual path, which was fantastic, and had lots of experiences and things which we will cover in greater detail along the way.
Sure.
I don't know if there's any part of that you wanted to pick on, and we can maybe go into greater detail. Anything?
Well, no, you got such a wide range there. I mean, like you said, it'll take quite some time to go through it all, let alone having our normal conversations about things. So it'll just come out naturally, I'm sure. But that's quite a background there. And like I said, I really am serious when I say that I think that it's really fabulous that you discovered a passion early on. Even if you change the passion, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly good. Because basically what you're saying is, well, let's try another one. Let's see if I can do it again, which is exciting. That's an exciting way to do it.
And as I was saying, and you were saying as well earlier on, that IT hasn't gone away from the new passions.
Which is a good
just
thing.
use it in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling you earlier that IT was never really a passion. It was just something I was really good at. And I'm glad. I mean, it certainly has served me well. It's given me...
when you know what you don't want, you have a better
That's
idea.
Right. I have a much better idea. Well, plus it helps when you're trying to set up a podcast and figure out how to navigate the choppy waters of the technological side of that. It's great to have the IT background. It makes it easier.
It is. It definitely makes it easier. But it can also hold you back in certain ways. My brother is very good at what do they call it, funding.
I don't know.
Wow.
I can't help you. I'm sorry. I don't know.
God, it's on the tip of my tongue. Never mind. It's basically a new way of getting funding.
Oh, like crowdsourcing?
Crowdfunding. Yeah. So he set himself up as a crowdfunding expert, and is now running a crowdfunding seminar.
Wow.
Summit.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. He said to me, "Louis, you should go on to podcasts for LOA because you love this stuff." So the next day I did it. The next day I found you, and I sent you that email straight away.
Right. Yeah. One thing led to another. So there it is, the potted biography in 14 minutes or less. That's pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah. No, it was very, very quick to go from everything that I've been doing after I've learned the LOA. Before the LOA, it felt like I was walking in treacle, trying to move from what I wanted to what I wanted to what I wanted.
And for Americans, you're going to have to explain what treacle is, because most Americans have no idea.
Oh, okay. Something sticky, difficult to walk through.
It's a treat, isn't it? A treacle?
Treacle. I think it's something to do with the pie, isn't it? A sticky pie.
Yeah.
But I do know that it's sticky and difficult to move through.
About the only thing that most Americans know about treacle is that it's Harry Potter's favorite dessert. Other than that, they really don't know.
Right. Harry Potter has really taken the world by storm.
Oh, tell me. Oh, my goodness. And he's taken me by storm, too. I've been a Harry Potter fan almost from the beginning of the whole thing. Not quite.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Which is
That,
really
that,
cool
that,
for
that-
me because, I mean, I was definitely not an 11-year-old when I picked it up.
yeah. So when it comes to LOA, law of attraction, my sister said to me one day, "You should look at this Abraham Hicks stuff." And
Mm.
I looked at some of the YouTube videos, which were about them talking to people, and I wasn't that impressed at the time,
Hmm.
and I kind of left it for a while. And then somebody else pointed it out to me and said, let me get a better look at this because so many people are talking about Abraham Hicks now. So
Mm.
I went and I said, I'm going to start from the beginning. So I went to their thing and I bought the Law of Attraction audio book one
Ah.
because I'm an Audible guy.
Oh, you are.
Um, yeah, I much prefer to speak and listen rather than see the written word that much.
I've been discovering how much my co-hosts in particular are really into audiobooks. I mean, I've never really
Mm.
done audiobooks myself very much, but yeah, a lot of you guys are. It's fascinating.
Well, it frees up time. You can do other things and listen. So,
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, it makes sense. Yeah, I've just never
you wash
never
the
done it that
dishes and
way.
listen to a podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're hoping for. We want more and more people to be listening to the podcast. So, yeah, that just means they have to do it by audio because it is an audio podcast.
I do see that with video podcasts. It seems
They
like
do.
completely.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually toying with that, but I figure, well, let's master one first and then, consider going there. But, and then you also got
So
married somewhere along the way.
I got worried. Sorry.
Married?
Oh yeah. So I was on a 5-day energy course. Quite an interesting story, really.
Okay.
And I was a reviewer, so I've done this course quite a few times.
Hmm.
And there were about 50 people on this course, and there were two bowls when we were working on tables. And they put all the numbers of the tables in the one bowl and the numbers of the table in the other bowl. So for the new people and reviewers, so they got them to mix together.
Uh-huh.
And on the first day, I saw this girl, and I really liked her, and I sat opposite her at lunch, and we chatted. And then we had the table time, and I picked out a table on the second day, not the first day. First day I met her, and the second day I pulled out a table number. It was table number 6. And I went to table number 6, and there she was.
Of
There was
course.
Annette, table
Yeah.
number 6. What else? And then the next day, I took another number out. And, 6 again. What's the likelihood of getting 6 2 days in a row? It's impossible. Look at the table, and there she is too. She picked out number 6 too.
Uh-huh. Definite pattern going here.
So 2 days in a row, we were together, and even the main teacher said to the coordinator, she said, did you organize this? I said, no, completely. The Universal did it.
Yeah, right.
There's nothing here. And by the end of that 5-day course, she had moved in.
Wow.
And within 2 days later, within 7 days, we knew we were going to get married and have kids.
No kidding. Wow, that's
Oh, 1
quick.
year later, we got engaged at Victoria Falls. 1 year later, we got married at Victoria Falls.
Oh, wow.
And now we have 2 kids.
Fabulous. What are your kids' names?
Eloise and Isabel.
Eloise and Isabel. Beautiful. All right.
Do you have any kids?
No, Louise and I met late in life. We didn't get married until we were in our 40s, and Louise really didn't want to have to be dealing with being a mother when she was in her 60s, and I couldn't say I blamed her. So,
Mm,
it
fair
was
enough.
it was not in the cards, so to speak. That was actually the hardest one for me when it came to deciding whether or not I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. It wasn't so difficult. It wasn't like, I was chewing on it for years at a time. But it was the toughest one because I had wanted to have family. And, I'd say overall I made the right decision.
hmm There are no incorrect decisions, are there?
Well, true,
Really?
yes. But I mean, let's put it this way. I made a decision that I'm happy with. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. But if you weren't, you'd change things.
I probably would, yeah. Yeah, but no, we've been together 19 years this month in terms of being married, 20 years
19.
overall. And yeah, life's been good. It's been tough at times, but it's been good.
Well, as everyone says, you pick a partner that's First a vibrational match, and then one that's going to push a button.
Well, yeah,
Help you
sometimes.
grow.
Actually, one of my things going into married life was kind of overcoming my own prejudices against marriage from all the years I'd been single. I think that was one of the reasons I ended up remaining single for so long, because I had such bad associations with marriage. Not that my own family were like that. My parents were happily married throughout their lives. That was not really the issue. It was more seeing how marriages overall in society tended to work out. And I kept hearing over and over again things like, oh, well, you have to compromise all the time, and you have to work at a marriage and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, that's not for me. No, thank you. But when it came time to meet Louise and finally decide, do I want to pursue this, my attitude hadn't changed. I didn't have any interest in a marriage where I had to constantly work at it. But I realized pretty early on with Louise that neither one of us were going to have to work at it because we're so compatible. We get along so well. We're both pretty healthy mentally speaking. So I don't think either one of us were really concerned about that too much. And as it's turned out, we haven't had to deal with that. The marriage has actually gotten us through much more difficult things. The marriage has been the strongest part about it. And I don't think it's because we had to work at it. It's because we just know how to be respectful to the other person and how to love the other person without, putting attachments on it and that kind of thing. And that's what I think is the real big deal with a marriage. A good marriage, you don't have to, a marriage shouldn't be a battleground. That's the way I look at it. It doesn't need to be one. And when I finally found somebody who I could have a relationship with that felt the same way, all of my attitudes changed, because now I felt like I could actually have what I thought a marriage should be, not what society thought it should be, what I thought it should be.
So did you need, for the marriage to be whole, did you need to have the religious ceremony?
No, we had a non-religious ceremony. I had actually, I had pretty much rejected Christianity when I was 14. And
Fantastic.
I did it within 1 year after joining the church officially. It was a short courtship.
Joining the church officially, wow.
No, I became an official member of the church, a communicant member, and all that.
You didn't have too much of an active vibration to undo.
No, well, well, in one sense I did, because I kept following that path up until that point because that's what my family did, and that's what everybody I knew did. But I also knew every step of the way I felt like I was going to the dentist. It didn't feel right. And I didn't understand at that point for sure. I didn't learn for many years afterward the importance of feeling when trying to evaluate what's going on. I had no clue that my feelings were actually indicators of what choices are going to lead to my happy life and what choices are going to lead to a not so happy life, what choices are going to lead to my success and what choices are going to lead to my failures. I had no idea, no clue how any of that worked. If I had, I probably wouldn't have joined the church, but I probably would have run away from home.
Isn't it interesting that the church doesn't teach you to trust your emotions?
Oh, not at all. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I actually went to a Presbyterian church that was relatively liberal by comparison to others. And I'm grateful for that, because from what I've learned talking to people who come from the more conservative church backgrounds, I mean, they're literally taught to not trust anything inside, and which just blows me away. I mean, it's not like I was taught to trust the inside. I wasn't, but I wasn't taught that it was, Satan talking to me or something like that. It was just like one of those things you just didn't even talk about it because there was nothing there to talk about. But for many people, the idea of listening to an inner voice is literally listening to Satan. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. Whoa, that's just mind-boggling to me. So
doesn't God talk to you too?
I'm probably the wrong person to answer that question, because that's not what I was hearing.
No, that's what I would say to the church people.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Inside or Satan, I would say to them, well, doesn't God speak to you too?
No, not according to many. According to many, yeah, that's what priests are for. Priests are your intercessors, right? They're the ones who get the divine guidance and hand it to you, because you have to maintain order over the sheep somehow. Have you
love
noticed
the
yet that I
fun
have
stuff.
rather a disdain for organized religion?
I think that population is growing
I think
massively.
so. Yes, yes. It reminds me of the line
When I
from.
was young, I was a Catholic, and we used to drive all the way down from the hill and drive all the way up again. We used to have the 8 to 9 o'clock mass.
Huh?
About 9:30, we used to go back and have breakfast. And every single time when we were coming up the hill, I used to feel sick. And I put it down to a late breakfast.
That's a good
And he was
explanation.
like, "You think I understand what it was all about?"
Ugh.
No
I,
more hellfire and damnation, thank you.
I, the one thing that got me most about Catholicism was Catholic funerals, because it
Oh
always
yeah,
struck me that Catholic funerals were quite possibly the most sadistic routines ever created. Not so much the funerals themselves, but the wakes, because basically the loved ones of the dearly departed get to spend hours at a time crying over and over and over again about the person having died and being reminded over and over again with the open coffin behind them that the person died. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of sadist came up with that one? Because it's not like it's actually healing anything. You can see people getting traumatized doing that. I never understood it. I mean, there are people who will argue, who are Catholic, who say that it does help them. It does help them feel better. It does help them get past the grief and so forth.
there are
And
some that don't do it that way too. I can tell you.
and there are, you're right. There are some who don't do it that way. But just for me, I think, whoa, that just seems really painful to go through that.
How many of those did you experience?
Too many.
I was
No,
about to say it must
well,
be.
I'm not Catholic, so I didn't have to go through a whole bunch of them. But I've been to maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 Catholic wakes in my life.
No.
Yeah, but so that now that you know how disdainful I am of religion, your turn. How do you feel?
Well,
What did
I've
you
really
discover
got
along the way?
Abram's viewpoint there. You can find alignment anywhere.
I like that too.
And if you're in Catholicism and it's really helping you align, then go for it. That is the level of tool that is working for you at that time.
This is true. Yes, I agree with that.
And I'm very happy for those who need it. So my disdain for that is for myself, not
Mm,
for anybody else.
yeah, that's a good point.
So I do completely respect everybody from every religion, and it's become clearer and easier for me to do that. Okay, it's
That's very
really,
good.
really, really important for me now to look for alignment wherever somebody's at, not worry about the organization belief or the other factors that are involved. And it makes life a lot simpler when you're looking for alignment. My daughter, we're at a 40th birthday party yesterday. Sorry, 70th birthday party.
Oh,
um, and my daughter, my 2-year-old, almost 3, she blew up in a fit, and it's unlike her. So I took her to the children's room where nobody else was in, luckily,
hmm,
and I just sat there and I held her, hold some of the energy points, which I know, etc. But I just focused on one thing: my alignment. Let her do whatever she needs to, whatever she wants to. But I just held her and I focused on me staying aligned the whole time.
good for you.
And it really is simpler and simpler as I've been practicing it more and more often. You go inside, you listen to, I like listening to my inner sound. And I just sat and I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it. And I just felt good and felt good. And she went through all her stuff and all over the place. Stay line, stay line. And she turns to me and she says, "Dad, I'm better now. Let's go."
Wow, fantastic. Really good. Really good. I love
And
the fact that
it
there's
only
so many
took
people.
about 2 minutes. Only took about 2 minutes.
No, it doesn't take long. Yeah, it doesn't
No,
take
it
long
doesn't
at
take
all.
long. If you remain aligned, if you don't get sobbed into to their vibration, into the world's terrible and everything's going wrong, you can remain aligned. You can really help those around you. You can be a very useful, powerful instrument.
Well, I just love the fact that there are parents these days who are being exposed to the teachings of Abraham and are using those teachings with their kids, like you just talked about. That to me
Yeah.
is like that is like the biggest kind of story of hope that I can find. Because when I hear about that kind of thing, that just says to me, this whole plane of existence, this whole physical world of existence, is getting so much better because of what we're learning and what we're learning how to apply. And you just demonstrated it with your story. So, bravo to you. I love that. That is just great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another thing I like about Abraham Hicks, too, by the way, Abraham is the first, what do we call him, a spiritual teacher? The first spiritual teacher I ever heard of who said that the purpose of being here on earth is to enjoy life. I had never heard a spiritual teacher say that before. It's certainly not part of organized
Richard
major
Martin
religions.
Illusion touches on it, but he's not
Yeah, he
exactly a
does.
spiritual
Yeah,
teacher.
that's true. Yeah, but even he doesn't even he ran away from being a messiah. Remember? He doesn't he doesn't pretend to be a spiritual teacher, or at least he didn't while he was still around. And it was such
Is
an
Richard
unusual thing. It was something I was not used to hearing from anyone who was presenting anything spiritual. And so to hear that,
Yeah.
that was the first time something really resonated with me on a spiritual basis.
I'm curious to you because I have a very similar experience. Did you have any other books that are what you would consider a similar vibration to the Abraham Hicks teaching, besides
Other
maybe Illusion?
books,
I feel
well, there
is
were a
it the
number of
close?
books that had, some similarities and some,
Mm.
it touched on some similar stuff. But no, nothing before Abraham Hicks really put together a concise, consistent, whole message the way Abraham
Picture
does.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. It's the whole picture which
right.
made the biggest difference. When you got that bits and pieces, and they weren't put together nicely, then it didn't feel right.
I mean, there was a time in my life where I wondered if there was something wrong with me. Because any time that I explored something that had a religious or a spiritual tone to it, it always felt empty.
Mm.
This was the first time something actually had some substance to it that felt good to me. In fact, it had a lot of substance that felt good to me. That was a completely new experience.
Um, I had stages of it, so I went from Catholicism to briefly looking at reborn Christianity to looking at something called Saint Mutt.
What is it?
Saint Mutt, Saintmat.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah. Um, to Eckankar, um, which is probably something else you haven't heard of.
Yeah, I can't say I recognize that one either.
So there was a whole journey for me, and they all slightly went from one level to a slightly higher level, higher level, higher level. And it's been very interesting. I've learned a lot from all the different blocks and parts of my life.
Mm.
I learned a lot from the occult. Actually, the occult is very, very interesting
Why so?
because it's the law of attraction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of the first things you learn in that is you draw a pentagram and you put who, when, why, what, where in the 5 places, and you fill that in, and then you burn it, and then you let it go. So you're spending the focused time focusing on what you want, and then burning it. So that was very, 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 very much the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Hicks teachings to some degree,
Yeah.
not with the clarity, but to some degree.
Well, it's the letting go part, right? Which is
Letting go is like getting rid of the resistance.
yeah, not attaching to the result.
Yeah, attaching to the result. And the pentagram and writing them in, etc., is just focusing on what you want, getting step 1. So you're getting step 1 and step 3 quite nicely sorted, and of course step 2 is automatic.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a problem with the occult, which a lot of people have discovered. And I like boiling it down to black and white magic. So both black and white magic in my books are not what I would do. And the way I would define black magic is, when you put that who, why, what, where, and when,
Mm-hmm.
the who, you would put somebody else that you want to hurt.
Even with white magic?
With white magic, you put the who, somebody else who you want to help.
Oh, I see. So I got it. It's other oriented. Got it.
So Abraham Hicks says to you, the only person you can put in that box is moi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you're not doing white or black magic. Because I always had a problem with white magic. I mean, obviously I have a problem with black magic. But
Why? I'm curious. Why white magic, though? I mean, I can think of a number of possible reasons, but what were your reasons?
Well, the reason is very simple. Very, very simple. If you want to help somebody, you have a problem. What's the problem?
Ah, okay.
What's the problem with wanting to help somebody?
So, like Abraham talks about, you really can't help somebody unless you have something to give them.
It's more the fact that when you want to help somebody, you're seeing them as broken.
Oh, okay.
Seeing them as incomplete. You're seeing them as not whole. You're seeing them as building their contrast to the place they've got to, and now it's wrong.
In other words, fixing people.
Yeah. If you're fixing people, you're not looking at them as whole and complete and the perfect place, and everybody's, everything's always working out for everybody.
Which is a much more advanced position than what most people are used to thinking about, including myself, I must honestly admit.
It makes complete sense. When I was talking about my daughter earlier,
mm-hmm.
If I was going down to her level and seeing her as broken and I needed to fix her, it would have taken much longer to try and get her up to a higher vibration.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I would have had to lower my vibration, then higher it again, and then hopefully she would want to come up to it.
And the really annoying thing is that you still couldn't raise her up because she's the only one who can do it.
Exactly. But as Abram says, people will tend to want to raise to your belief.
Mm.
So if you believe your child is always lazy, always sitting on the couch, always playing computer games, the child is going to tend to raise to your expectation.
Or lower.
Or lower, yes. Raise, higher, lower.
Yeah, I find most of the time whenever that kind of thing is being looked at, it's usually a lowering rather than a raising, because kids are usually fairly high vibrational. I mean, just by nature, that's who they are.
Yeah. So it's a lovely place to be when you get this understanding, because you don't want to fix people anymore.
Yeah.
But you do want to go out and be excited and have fun and share what you want to share. Now, one thing that really excites me is talking about these kind of topics.
Why is that? What excites you?
It's a good question, and I don't really know if I have the answer. It just does.
Well, you don't have to know the answer. I ask questions because I'm good at it. Doesn't mean that the questions are answerable.
I must admit, you are good at it. And you're very, very good at keeping dialogue going. And it's one of the reasons why I immediately clicked with, I'd like to be on that, because I know Walt is going to be able to extract and bring out in me, lots of stuff. So,
well, thank you.
That can help. Yeah,
that's actually a skill I can attribute to my father, by the way. My father was the one who taught me how to ask questions. My father was like the world champion question asker. And I say that with a great deal of respect and love for him, because, I mean, literally, there was no situation in which he couldn't come up with at least 10 questions on the spot in about 30 seconds flat. Just amazing, an amazing man, and a loving man, too.
Incredible is when you've got questions which can guide somebody.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they can move forward, not just random.
Well, we were talking about having an IT background. My dad was an engineer, so he had that kind of linear, step-by-step thought process. And his questions always reflected that thought process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I was in IT, I learned to fault find. And that thought process you can use anywhere in life, I discovered.
Oh, yeah. I can be an expert at what I really, really want to be. It always should come with a warning label, but
Well, we now learn to use the words differently. We're now solution finders.
solution finding. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I spent far too much time trying to find fault, and,
Oh,
and, and unfortunately, I kept finding it, which meant I kept getting more opportunity to look for it. Oh, it's like Abraham says, the law of attraction is always such a fair friend.
fair feathered friend.
Oh, it really is. It gives you exactly what you keep thinking about. It's a wonder that it took me so long to discover it. To
Isn't that interesting?
you
It's
know,
such a prime base of life that you weren't taught it, but why didn't you even work it out for yourself?
that's what I mean. Why couldn't I have worked it out? And I think it was because I just bought in so thoroughly to what I was taught by my society.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, I had nothing else to go on, so I went based on that. It took a long time for that thought process in its whole, in its gestalt whole, so to speak, to fall apart.
Yeah,
But it did fall
yeah.
apart. And once it fell apart, then I was ready. I was ready to receive the law of attraction concept messaging. But that falling apart process, it can take a while. And it can be painful. And it can be frustrating. And it can be maddening. Because when you're in the middle of it, you say, well, nothing makes sense.
Mm.
Nothing makes sense. You know, I guess you kind of have to go through that before you can be open enough. Well, at least for me it was. Maybe I'll just say, no, for me, I had to go through all of that in order to get to the point where I could allow the other in. I had to just go through that release period, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's something that has become clearer and clearer to me is that just imagine you've got a glass of water in front of you
Mm-hmm.
and there's some murky stuff in it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's kind of mixed with the clean water, but it kind of sticks together. And it's like waves all over the place. And if you look at the black parts, they're what you're thinking about what you don't want. Okay. They're all your
Okay.
problems. And
Okay.
if you look at the clean water, that's all you're thinking about what you do want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people and a lot of institutions in this world want to help you by going in and grabbing that dirty stuff in the water and pulling it out as a solution to cleaning the water up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what would happen if you just kept on pouring cleaner water into the glass?
So presumably the dirtier water would become less and less prevalent. It would be
Correct.
it would be a smaller percentage of the overall volume.
So, do you have to go back and face your childhood problems, your this problem?
Interesting. Okay, I see where you're going.
Do you have to go and stick your finger in it and look at it for more than 14 seconds and magnify it? Do you really have to? Or can you focus clearly on what you want? Follow the rocket of desire that came out of that dirty stuff and just keep on pouring a little more water, a little more clean water into the glass. Which one do you think is going to be better in a consistent long-term result?
Honestly, I think that the answer to that is going to be a different answer for every person.
That's interesting.
And the reason I think it's going to be different for every person is because every person is not in need of being fixed, like the point you were making earlier. So
Yeah, yeah.
there are sometimes some people that it just works better for them to work with the murky water. That's just the way it is. I'm not a murky water person, but there are some people.
There are those people that like, as Abram says, the drama of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like the drama, or perhaps there can actually be a sense of security in it. That's one thing that I learned by being married to a
Familiarity.
former psychotherapist. When you're married to a psychotherapist, you pick up stuff along the way, even though there's not any real intention to do so, but you just pick it up. And one of the things you learn is that that people often remain dysfunctional because it feels safer. That's quite a concept, but it really happens to be true. People will stick with their dysfunctions because the dysfunctions feel safer. Why do they feel safer? Because they're familiar. That's what they've known all their lives.
So does safer feeling and thinking like that, does it equate happier?
I can't answer the question because I can tell you it would not for me, but I can't answer the question for somebody else. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing I've learned in all my years, it's that I don't know what makes somebody else happy. Mm-hmm. I only know what makes me happy. And when I stick to that's what Wendy Dillard calls staying in your own lane. Mm-hmm. And I try to practice staying in my own lane as much as I can.
Do you know what I call it?
What's that?
I call it MYOB.
MYOB? Mind your own business?
Mm. Yep.
It's a good one. And it works.
So my wife and I have got this thing going, Do we? She says in the background. Whenever I'm got my nose in her business, she'll say to me, MYOB.
Uh-huh.
When I've got my nose in her business, she'll say MYOB.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really seems to help. It really gets us to the place of thinking, yeah, well, is it really my business or isn't it? Yeah.
It's a good reminder that sometimes, I guess the rule of thumb I've always followed with people is, have they asked me in some way for help? If they haven't asked me for help, I really don't want to offer it.
But when it comes to family, it's there are blurred lines, aren't there? It's slightly different.
They can be. They can be. Although I have to say, even there, I followed the same rule, often to my own detriment. But I followed it anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I found that it's actually, even when it seems to work to my detriment, it really doesn't. It seems perhaps, in the immediate near term to be working to my detriment, but in the long run, it always works to my benefit.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
It is a very sound concept.
Yeah.
Staying in your own lane, minding your own business.
So actually, I had that concept down before I even discovered law of attraction. It made it easier for me to buy into the law of attraction when I heard about it and learned about it, because there were certain parts of it that made a lot of sense to me. I just, I didn't have to be convinced of them,
Yeah.
And it has been remarkable to me as I've taken my journey, as I've talked to so many other people here on the podcast, as I've talked to other people in private life, it has been remarkable to me to note just how many people don't have the same experience or even a similar experience. So I feel like I'm kind of lucky in the sense that I got that part early, which kind of baffles me even more. Why didn't I get the rest of it?
Yeah.
I had so many clues.
Mm.
Oh,
so,
well.
Did you believe before studying the law of attraction, did you believe that you created your own reality?
No. In fact, I thought I was a prisoner of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really did believe that any time that I felt better, it's because my reality did it. Any time I felt worse, it's because my reality did it. It was just due to whatever the chances of the fates were, although I didn't believe in fate either. So I'm not sure what I attributed it to, but it wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me. Whatever it wasn't me. It's not my fault.
But isn't it liberating once you do get it?
It is both liberating and daunting at the same time. Because
there is that aspect.
There is, yeah. Because all of a sudden, every reason that I used to give for why it didn't work, that I would attribute to somebody outside myself, it was like, oh, damn, I can't get away with anything.
I love the way Carolyn Mace puts it. She says to her audience, how many people believe they create their own reality? Most of the hands go up. She says, okay, so how many of you blame anybody for anything?
Oh, there's a leading question if I ever heard one.
I loved it. It's not such a good way of saying, did you blame your partner for not putting the toothpaste cap on, or leaving the toilet seat up, or your child screaming, or did you blame anybody else?
It is really, really, it's like every single day is an opportunity to feel humility, because then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, doggone it, it's me again. No. And ultimately, and this is where I think the real
I wasn't a vibrational match.
that's right. And this is where the rubber really meets the road, in my opinion. That's where I get the opportunity every single day to forgive myself. Because ultimately, the most important stuff in life is loving oneself. Abraham's been really quite clear about that. And I bought into that part pretty easily, pretty early on.
I'm not very fond of the word love, though.
No?
No.
Why is that?
Well, if you think about it, if you think about the word love, most of the time it's lack of love, not enough love.
Oh.
So every subject's two subjects. So if you look at the word love, it's about 99% lack and 1% what you do want.
Okay. I have to admit that was never really part of my idea of love. I mean, I did certainly notice a lack of love, but I was pretty clear in the distinction in my mind. That was the other thing that really made a lot of sense to me, the two-ended stick metaphor.
Yeah,
when I first heard that one, it's like, yeah, of course. How else could it be?
Have you listened to some pop song words recently?
I'm sorry?
Have you listened to some of the pop song words recently?
No, I haven't. I haven't paid any attention to modern pop songs.
Because most of them are talking about love, and most of them are talking about the lack or loss or not enough or broken or...
But that's not new. That's been going around for generations. There is nothing new in that lyric.
But they're not aware that love has two sides.
Well, neither was our generation. My generation had no idea that that was an issue. But that kind of lyric has been selling records and music and so forth for a long, long time.
Yeah. And why are they selling them? Because?
Well, do you want me to say it positively or the way I normally say it?
I think that's what I'm kind of...
The way I normally say it is because people are messed up. But I'm not sure if I have a coherent answer.
Terms, what is that?
It's one that I don't really want to go to. No, I'm not sure how I would express that in positive terms. It's a good question. How do you express that in positive terms?
How do you express love in positive terms?
Well, not love, but you raised the question about why is it that people are so attracted to music where the lyrics are so dysfunctional?
Because they're a vibrational match, is what I would say.
Okay, well that's accurate.
Okay, so how to put it positively? They're just got a huge accumulation of what they don't want, and when people have got a lot of that, they have a huge vortex of what they do want. So there's nothing wrong with it. Never was, never will be. Mm-hmm. Where are they placing their focus? Are they now placing it on what they want or what they don't want?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And there's nothing wrong going on anywhere.
That's Abraham straight up. That's good.
Yeah. So it's really easy now for me to appreciate everybody's creation of their own contrast.
What does that mean to you? I mean, when you say you appreciate it,
to me is Walt has been born and he had a nice father and he taught him how to question and that builds up who Walt is. Okay, Walt has a dynamic of contrast that Walt's been playing with, and that creates a vibration within him, and it's perfect where it's at. It's beautiful. It's amazing, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing broken, and it's great. So that's really what I'm trying to say is it's really beautiful to appreciate everybody, no matter what contrast they're playing.
What's interesting is the way you're expressing it, which is a very good way to express it. You're expressing appreciation through acceptance.
Yes.
that acceptance plays a major role. It's an
Major
underappreciated
role.
role. Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's underappreciated. I think many followers of Abraham don't really fully appreciate the role of acceptance.
The strange thing about Abraham Hicks followers in general that I've come across one and the podcast guys, that actually understand it to much of a degree.
Well, it's a tough concept. I don't remember where they said it, but one of their workshops, they pointed out that humans are really very good at the first two steps. They're really good at the first step, ask. They're pretty good at the second step, believe. It's the received part that they have trouble with. And the received part is really about acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first time I heard that, I have to admit, I was confused. First time I heard that, I was very confused by that. How could you have trouble accepting something when you want to receive it? But over time, I've come to realize, that's a pretty big boulder there that we're stumbling over.
So, when I was a kid, I was always sick. I had asthma, and for some reason or other, they used to plug me with many antibiotics. I'm already allergic to tier 1 antibiotics because they're endless. And this all happened in my childhood. And then I got every cold and flu and everything else that ever went around. I was always sick. And I was really tired of going to the doctor to get a tablet, which didn't seem to do anything. And I was wheezing in bed. I was going, and then I'd start at the bottom again, and I did this. My sister slept next to me, and then the next morning when I woke up, she looked over and said, "Louis, I'm so surprised you're not dead this morning."
Such a lovely sister.
And it shocked me because I didn't realize how bad, or I don't know if it really was bad, but how serious it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was more than I kind of grasped.
Right. Yeah.
It was kind of a wake-up call for me. And what happened is my mom had a book on her shelf called Body Reflexology by Mildred Carter. And I read through it and I got incredibly excited for one reason. I could do something for myself.
Yeah, that's good.
I started massaging my own hands and feet, found the lung points, started massaging them, and I started getting better.
Wow.
This is a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, that's very good.
Massaging his own hands and his own feet.
Hey, we only have a couple minutes left. I want to make. I'm sorry to cut off the story, but I got to make sure I get the promo messages in before we end up for the day. First, I want to encourage people who are not yet subscribers. Please do become a subscriber because you get access to all of these wonderful episodes that we create every single day, twice a day, Monday through Friday, and once again on Sunday. And they come automatically streaming right to your smartphone or your tablet or whatever device you use. The instructions on how to do it are all on our homepage at loatoday.net. On an Apple phone, you can just go to the iTunes store if you want to, or even to the podcast software and do a little search for LOA Today. Similarly, on an Android phone, in many cases, you'll have to install some software first by going to the Play Store and looking for something related to podcasts, install that, and then you can do a search for us. But either way, make sure you subscribe. And once you're a subscriber, we're asking all of our existing subscribers, our regular listeners, our binge listeners, to please keep posting on social media about it. It is working. More and more people are finding out about us. We have literally, Louis, in the last 2.5 months, we have doubled the number of plays per day. That shows just how many people are finding us. So we want to keep that going. So please do continue to share on your favorite social media channel the fact that you're listening to loatoday.net. So I just had to make sure I got those 2 messages in while there's a little time left. Because sometimes we get up against the wall. It's like, oh no time left. Ah!
No, it's great. I think you're doing a great job there, Will.
And I appreciate the fact that you've joined the team. I mean, now we're bigger. We have done the ultimate law of attraction thing. We have expanded. And you are part of that expansion. Yeah. So thank you for being part of the expansion.
Thank you.
And I look forward to having you join me next week.
Yeah, I'm excited. Next week, I'm quite keen to go on and talk about just the basics of the law of attraction.
Sounds great. Okay, well then we'll do just that. All right. All right, and we hope that you'll join us next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.